In our last video, we talked about One UI 9 test builds finally matching the leaks, and today I've got the next piece of that puzzle. While a lot of Galaxy owners are still waiting on the One UI 8.5, Samsung and Google are already testing the One UI 9 on Android 17, and leaked builds are now showing real changes running on S26. So here's the plan. I'm going to walk you through what's actually new in this Android 17-based One UI 9 build, what looks like it's still unfinished, and the realistic timing, when the beta could start, when the stable release could land, and which Galaxy devices are most likely to get Android 17 at all. And quick context, because this matters. Google announced Android 17 back in February, and it's already in beta. That's the upstream software Samsung is building on. So if Samsung's internal One UI 9 testing is real, the pipeline is already moving, even if your phone is still stuck watching the One UI 8.5 rollout in slow motion. First, the big headline. The One UI 9 builds based on Android 17 have leaked, and one is already running on a Galaxy S26. That's important because earlier One UI 9 leaks were messy. Some were basically placeholders, or they didn't clearly reflect Android 17 yet. Once Android 17 is underneath, that's when the UI, the menus, and Samsung's system apps start exposing what they're actively building, not just what they named the branch. Now let's talk about what you'll notice instantly, because Samsung made a change you can't miss. The quick panel sliders are huge. Swipe down, and the brightness and volume sliders look thicker, taller, and more dominant than before. This matches the direction we discussed last time. Samsung is making touch targets bigger and pushing the quick panel toward a more accessibility-friendly, one-handed-friendly layout. Here's what's interesting though. In this build, there aren't new quick panel settings added. No extra row of controls, no new fancy toggles. Just a very obvious design shift in the sliders themselves. That tells me two things. One, Samsung is still iterating on the panel layout and isn't done yet. Two, they're likely testing visual weight and usability first, and they'll decide later what gets added, moved, or split. Because with Samsung, the quick panel is never done. It's one of the most frequently tweaked surfaces in One UI. Next up, add changes. These are the kind of changes that don't sound dramatic until you actually use them. In Photo Assist, there's now an option that will analyze a photo and automatically suggest prompts. That means, instead of you staring at an empty prompt box thinking, okay, what do I even type to get a cool edit? The phone tries to guide you. This is the direction the entire industry is moving toward. AI features that don't wait for you to be an expert. The phone becomes proactive. It looks at the image and gives you ideas like, try this style, try this transformation, try this lighting, based on what it detects. And for Samsung specifically, that fits their Galaxy AI strategy. They don't just want features that exist, they want features that get used. Suggested prompts are basically AI onboarding built right into the workflow. Now, Audio Eraser also got a change that's small on paper but huge for clarity. There's a new menu that shows toggles for all supported apps, and in practice, it looks like it covers basically anything that can play video content. That's Samsung making it obvious where Audio Eraser works and giving you direct control. This matters because one of the most annoying parts of modern phone features is guessing where they apply. Does it work in this app? Does it work on that video player? Is it limited to the gallery? Is it limited to Samsung apps? A dedicated list of supported apps answers that. It turns a cool demo feature into a reliable tool. Now let's hit Now Brief, because Samsung's also organizing that experience. In this build, Now Brief gets sections for different styles of content you might want to organize inside the feature. This is Samsung trying to make it feel less like a random feed and more like a structured dashboard. If you've used features like this before, you know the difference. A feed is something you scroll. A dashboard is something you check. Samsung clearly wants Now Brief to become a place you return to, not something you ignore after a week. Next, Samsung DeX. There's a new toggle that brings an existing feature, Auto Hide Status and Taskbar, into a more central position. So it's not necessarily a brand new DeX capability, but it's a usability win. Settings that people actually want are being surfaced where you'll find them. And that's the theme of this whole leak so far. The One UI 9 doesn't look like a total redesign. It looks like Samsung polishing high-touch areas, the quick panel, AI editing, audio cleanup, content organization, and DeX controls. Why is the One UI 9 even getting tested already when the One UI 8.5 isn't in everyone's hands? Because Samsung and Google run on two different clocks. Google ships Android platform updates on Google time. Samsung ships One UI releases on Samsung time, plus carriers, plus regions, and plus device tiers. So right now you can have two truths at once. The One UI 8.5 can be behind for a lot of Galaxy owners. And the One UI 9 can be well underway internally because Samsung can't wait for 8.5 to finish before starting the next major Android base. So the question becomes, when will you actually get Android 17 on a Galaxy phone? We don't have an official One UI 9 beta announcement yet, no formal dates. But we do have a pattern, and we have Google's timeline. Google's Android 17 beta is already rolling, and the official launch is expected around June. As that gets closer, Samsung usually ramps up internal testing on its newest flagships first. Leaks suggest Samsung started internal Android 17 tests in March, which lines up with how they've moved in previous years. If that timing holds, a public One UI 9 beta could start around May, likely on the Galaxy S26 series first. Then, if Samsung follows their usual expansion path, 1. Newer flagships join next, like the Galaxy S25 line. 2. Then recent foldables. 3. Then upper mid-range models. 4. Then budget phones and tablets later, depending on region and carrier. If a beta kicks off in May, you could see more devices added through June and July, and then a stable rollout toward the end of the year. But I need to say this clearly, most people will still get the One UI 8.5 first. Android 17 is One UI 9. The One UI 8.5 is still the step right before it for a lot of phones. So yes, you're waiting twice, one update before the update. Now the next big question. What should you expect from the One UI 9 overall? Based on what's leaked and what Android 17 is building toward, expect a blend of three things. Number 1. Visible UI refinements. Quick panel layout changes are the obvious example. Samsung is still adjusting the feel of the phone, not just adding checkboxes in Menace. Number 2. AI features that are more guided and more controllable. Photo Assist suggesting prompts is the guided part. Audio Eraser getting an app support list is the controllable part. Number 3. Platform-level improvements from Android 17 that Samsung can either adopt fully or selectively. Think performance tuning, privacy and security upgrades, better multitasking behavior on larger screens and foldables, and system features that might show up differently on Samsung hardware than they do on Pixels. Now device eligibility, which Galaxy phones will get Android 17. Samsung hasn't published an official list because the beta isn't public yet, but we can make a reasonable estimate using Samsung's update promises and what devices already receive the One UI 8. In general, if your Galaxy phone launched within Samsung's current major update window, you're in a good position. If you're on an older flagship that's already nearing the end of its major OS upgrades, you may get the One UI 8.5 but not the One UI 9. Here's the simplest way to think about it. If your phone is already struggling to stay inside the major OS update window, Android 17 is where it often gets cut off. You may still get security patches, but not the next big Android base. So if you're holding an older model and you're on the fence about upgrading, the One UI 9 and Android 17 might be the line that decides it for you. Now, one more thing about these leaks. Early builds always change. The massive sliders might not ship exactly like this. Samsung could slim them down. They could add customization. They could give you a compact mode. They could shift the panel again entirely. 1. The AI menus could get renamed. 2. Now brief sections could get reorganized. 3. DeX toggles could move again. 4. And features can appear in one build, then disappear in the next, then come back later. So treat this as a snapshot of direction, not a final product. But it's a meaningful snapshot because it proves the One UI 9 isn't just a rumor anymore. It's running. It's being tested. And it's showing consistent design intent across multiple parts of the system. If you want me to track these One UI 9 Android 17 builds as they evolve, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next leaks will answer the questions everyone actually cares about: what Samsung locks in, what they roll back, and what they save for the beta. And drop a comment with your current Galaxy model and your region. I want to see who's still waiting on One UI 8.5 and who you think is getting the One UI 9 first. Here's my challenge to you. The next time Samsung changes the quick panel again, don't just react to it. Use it for 2 days, then come back and tell me if those bigger sliders made your phone faster to use or just harder to navigate. Your habits are the real benchmark, not the changelog. See you in the next one. Peace out.